Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight we have the pleasure of visiting with Lesa Bain, our Vice President of Sales with Lindblad Expeditions, National Geographic, one of our Wallace Pearson Travel favorite adventure and expedition cruise lines. 5 years ago, we took our first trip with Lindblad Expeditions, and I have a few photos here from that adventure to the Galapagos Islands. At the time, Emily was only 3, and many thought she'd never remember the trip. But she does. She still talks about stumbling upon these giant tortoises that day when we were out walking over the island. Earlier this year, as we were finishing up our trip around the world, a big black bird flew overhead while we were in Panama, and Emily pointed and said, "Look, it's my favorite bird, it's the frigate." And it was something she learned from that trip to the Galapagos. And that's really what makes Lindblad special, is that they engage with all of the travelers on board, big and small, while providing opportunities for learning. They do a great job of pushing everyone's comfort zone in a safe way so that when the trip ends, you take home memories that last a long time. So I'm going to turn it over to Lesa. I'll let her take us through the event tonight, and then at the end, we'll stay on a little bit extra, unmute everybody for some question and answer. So Lesa?
Wonderful. I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. Thanks everyone for coming along. It's always so much fun to share what we do around the world. We've got a couple of videos, so hopefully your sound is going to be strong enough for you to pick up. But whenever I talk about Lindblad Expeditions, I really have to start from the beginning so you understand who we are, because the very basis of where we started is what makes us what we do and who we are and what we do today. And this is actually Lars Erik Lindblad. And Lars Erik Lindblad was an explorer in his own right back in the 50s. He was going out into these remarkable places around the planet and very quickly realizing they were already suffering from wildlife and habitat loss. And so it really hurt him deeply that his grandchildren may not have the opportunity to see these remarkable places. And so he realized the only thing he could do to help them was to take other like-minded people there, educate them, show it to them in the hope that they would return as a voice for the preservation of those places. And his son, Sven Lindblad, has been at the helm of the company now for over 40 years. Now, what's really cool is when Lars Erik first started taking guests, the very first trip he ever took was to Antarctica. That was 1966. Think of it. That's not that long ago that the very first guest stepped foot in Antarctica. And the following year, he took the very first guest to the Galapagos Islands. There were a lot of firsts for Lars Erik, and a lot of firsts in creating what an expedition was, because this type of travel didn't exist until Lars Erik started it. So he really is seen as the father of small ship expedition travel. Now, Sven, over the past 40 years, has really changed the face of what we do. And one of the things that really impacted Lindblad Expeditions and allowed us to show even further into the places we visit was our alliance with the National Geographic Society. We have a wide variety of alliances in the place we visit, but this is the one most people know us for. If you look at our ships, they are the Lindblad, National Geographic, Orion, that's their names. But we have an alliance with the society, and that allows us access to data and knowledge. But more so, it allows us to support their good works in the places that we go to. We participate in the Lindblad National Geographic Fund, where we're able to disseminate funds to amazing young scientists and researchers in the field and support programs worldwide. So it really is all about supporting the places that we visit. Expeditionary teams. Now, one of the key things when you're on an expeditionary trip are the caliber of the people you travel with. These are ornithologists, botanists, marine biologists, ethnomusicologists on some trips, particularly places like Iceland or the South Pacific. And their job is to be available 24/7 to answer your questions. And I think this is what's really important. You need people who are excited as they were the first time they went there with every visit. These are the kind of men and women who are so passionate about sharing these places with you and get so excited every time they go back. They're like giddy school children, honestly. And that's what helps to create that passion and excitement when our guests are in the field. But they are there to help you every step of the way understand, to really get the depth of knowledge of the places that you're visiting. That includes an underwater dive team, not only in the warmer places like the Pacific, but in Antarctica and the Arctic. You're sitting on a huge living organism. And so you'd better understand what's happening beneath the ship, because that's 50% of the experience. What that amazing marine biodiversity is doing beneath you, how healthy the waters are around you is really, really important. And then the other thing that is paramount on an expedition is having expeditionary tools for your use. Now, these should all be included. They shouldn't be an add-on cost. That's not an expedition then. That's a cruise with add-ons. An expedition, by its very name, is something that includes hydrophones and video microscopes so you can look at the plankton in the water, ROVs or remote-operated vehicles that can go down 1,000 feet and beam back footage. We have a videographer on our ships that films every aspect of each trip, and at the end there's an amazing video, National Geographic quality, that you can take home with you just of that particular departure and all the amazing things that happened while you were on that expedition. Kayaking, being in the Zodiacs, paddle boards, all of your snorkeling gear, it's all included in your expedition. It's not an additional cost. Some places we do have diving. You are paying for your oxygen tanks, but apart from that, all your instruction is included. Now, the other really big thing for us is our alignment with National Geographic Society is our Lindblad National Geographic Photography Program. And one of the things I'm always asked is, well, I'm not a really big photographer. This program is designed from the professional down to the cell phone user. We have specific classes for iPhone, for cell phones, to allow every level of guest to get the very best images they can on their expedition. So when they go home, they've got some really cool stories to tell through their images. The other thing is we have a B&H photo locker on nearly all of our ships now, not all, but mostly. And this locker is full of spectacular equipment. I mean, 600 millimeter lenses, mirrorless cameras, really great SLR camera bodies, Swarovski crystal binoculars. And you can go each night and free of charge, you can check out a piece of equipment to field test while you're on the ship. Doesn't replace your equipment that you need on the ship, but it allows you to add to that and maybe try some kind of new equipment while you're traveling with us. It's just another option. We also have an amazing system on board where you can download your images and work with our photographers on how best to crop or to present those. One of the really big things for Lindblad has always been our love of family travel. We've always been very big with families that have traveled with us. Sven and Lars truly believe that the sooner you can get your children out into the wild, the more passionate they'll become about it and the more they'll want to learn. And honestly, 4 and 5 up, and often as young as 3, it really is the best time to get them out there. Don't wait till they're 10 or 12. You've missed a huge opportunity. And about 2017, we worked with National Geographic Education and really beefed up our program and created the Global Explorers program for our under 18-year-old guests. And this is designed for those young explorers to really get out, to better understand, to do scientific experiments in the field, to work with our teams, to take water samples, learn to drive a Zodiac. But all of these activities are done alongside their parents. We truly believe a family holiday is not when you have kids in one area of a product and parents somewhere else. That's 2 separate vacations. We want you to explore and understand together. So these are memories that will always come back to you as a family when you're together. Global Explorers is available on every Galapagos, every Alaska, and every Baja itinerary. So if there's one child, the program runs. It is just brilliant. And if you're thinking multi-generational or even one child, it really is an amazing opportunity for them to learn. Sustainability is huge on our ships, and our sustainable food, our ship to table, our farm to table on the ships is really important. And it has been since the very beginning. Not just because it tastes better and it allows you to taste the region you're in, but because it puts money back into the local community. You need to ensure that funds are going back into the places that you're visiting so that they can continue to grow and to improve their lot. So it's really important to us that we're buying within a 100-mile radius of our ships in pretty much all of our locations. Type of people who travel with us, they're inquisitive, they want to learn, they want to get out and understand it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We know that not everyone wants to do a 6 or 7 mile hike. Some people might just want to do an amble along the beach or just a Zodiac safari, and others might want to go and do a much longer kayak or go and do a long hike. Every evening, there are options for you to choose for the next day. You can go out as a family and do 4 different things with 4 different people and then come back together at the end of the day and share those experiences in that same destination. So it really is about at the speed that you want to go. But couples, we have a dedicated solo program. We have a share program for guests on board, best way to make new friends, groups of friends traveling, multi-generational. So it really is about just getting out and exploring and making sure you bring your sense of adventure with you. I think that's the most important thing. And we know we've truly been successful when someone comes back to the ship at night and goes, I did something I never thought I'd do. That was awesome, right? They've just pushed themselves that little bit further. And that is just, that just warms everybody's hearts, because we've allowed someone to realize that they're capable of so much more. Open bridge policy on all of our ships. Best seat in the house. When you're on our ships, you need to spend as much time up here as possible. Early morning with a coffee, glass of wine in the evening. Just take the time to get to know our captains and all of our team up on the bridge. There's seating, best wildlife spotting, and at night, some of the best stargazing in the world from the ship. Sustainability. This is a big part of who we are. It's actually the foundation of who Lindblad Expeditions is, from our sustainable cuisine to the fact that we are a carbon neutral company. We offset all of our carbon emissions, but we also work continuously or every year to lower the carbon emissions we put out. So it's all well and good to say you're carbon neutral, but you need to be reducing that continuously, and we are. We're single-use plastic free on all of our ships, and now we're working with our supply chain to help them become single plastic free as well. And we're also, one of the really cool things that happened last year, we're a self-disinfecting fleet. And this actually happened before coronavirus raised its ugly little head. And the reason we became a self-disinfecting fleet was really twofold. We wanted to cut down on the amount of plastic waste on the ships. And by using this new photocatalytic system, which is a spray through Clean Coat, we don't have to mix chemicals on board and put it in spray bottles and have all these plastic bottles. You just spray the entire inside of the vessel, every surface, and this system continually works through any kind of light. You turn on a light in the bathroom, sunlight, and it kills viruses on contact. So it really is a brilliant system, and I just wanted to share a little bit more of that with you.
Lindblad Expeditions, we're the oldest and most experienced expedition travel company in the world, and we go to some of the wildest, most remote places on the planet. We're very conscious of where we travel, the amount of waste that we produce. The cleanliness of our ship is so important to keep a healthy environment. Premium purity is unlike anything we've ever seen out there. We did a one-year trial aboard the National Geographic Explorer, and now everyone on the Explorer is an advocate of the solution and its effectiveness.
I'm sitting on board National Geographic Explorer, which is actually the first self-disinfecting vessel in the market. So all indoor areas have been treated with ACT Clean Coat. ACT Clean Coat is a photocatalytic process that works 24/7 when illuminated. It breaks down unwanted microbes such as bacteria and viruses. It's all about creating a cleaner and safer environment and greater protection of the people on board.
The ship is truly pristine and healthy, and we have measurable results to prove it. We have reduced guest-reported illnesses on board by 50%. We've eliminated over 1,000 plastic bottles that we used to purchase and dispose of fleet-wide. We've dramatically reduced the water usage fleet-wide. The crew is now talking about how healthy the ship is and how effective it is to use this solution. ACT has been a great partner, and in the end, if we have a system that's substantially healthier for the environment, we all win.
So we've all been pretty excited about how this has worked on board our ships, and it's now on all of the Lindblad National Geographic fleet. And so that leads me into our fleet. And I'm just going to touch quite quickly on the vessels, because this is really the way we access the places we go. And it's really important to understand that this is about the luxury of access. We want to keep our ships small and intimate because we can get into places that bigger ships cannot. Our biggest ship is the National Geographic Explorer that you see here, and she's only 148 guests. 148 guests. So that's the biggest ship in our entire fleet. And she does the Antarctic and the Arctic. We have a wonderful new ship down in the Galapagos, 96 guests, along with a smaller vessel in the Galapagos, the Islander. We have two beautiful new ships built in the United States, the Venture and the Quest, that do the entire west coast from Alaska down to Costa Rica and Panama, Belize and Guatemala. And these 100 guest 22 balcony suites. We have some wonderful little ships we use around the world that we charter. And when we have these ships, it's just Lindblad guests. So from the Mekong to the Amazon to the Nile. So there's a lot of places we visit. And of course, I can't get through them all tonight, but I'm going to touch on some key ones. And then, of course, our brand new baby, the National Geographic Endurance, which is 126 guests, state of the art. She has that wonderful pointy nose, and there's a reason for that. That is an X-bow. So instead of riding a wave like a traditional ship, she cuts through it, creating a much more stable, calm ride in rough weather, particularly because she's built for Antarctica and the Arctic. She is also the highest rated ice ship built in the world at the moment. She's an ice class 5A. That's stronger than a 6. So the smaller the number, the stronger the ice class classification. And this vessel will spend her life in the polar regions exploring.
Hi everyone, and welcome on board the National Geographic Endurance. My name's Aaron Wood and I am the captain on board. This ship has a bridge where we can get everybody on at once.
Now we're moving up to the ice lounge. We have a state-of-the-art audio and video system there where we have lined up 39 flat screen TVs, so you will never miss a moment. 270 is one of the restaurants. It's named after its panoramic views with floor-to-ceiling windows.
Our suites, large and comfortable, comprises of 2 wonderful areas. We're also having our balcony cabins. The sanctuary is our wellness center with beautiful ocean views. You'll also find 2 wonderful igloos.
We have 2 places to board the Zodiacs. This allows us to maximize our landing potential in any weather conditions and provide shelter to get you safely on and off the ship.
An exclusive feature of her decor is art. Artist Zaria Foreman has curated the first ever permanent polar exhibit on board a polar vessel.
On behalf of all of us at Lindblad Expeditions, we look forward to welcoming you all on board the National Geographic Endurance, and we look forward to sailing together in the very near future. Cheers!
Cheers!
Cheers.
So as you can imagine, we're pretty excited about her and we can't wait to actually get her out into the ocean. That's where she's sitting right now, just waiting for this to be over so we can start her up in the Arctic. But she's an absolutely stunning vessel. So I just want to quickly talk about some of the really amazing places we visit. And of course, I couldn't do that unless I spoke about Antarctica. This is where it all started for us back in 1966. And Antarctica really is one of the most remarkable places you can go to. The southernmost continent, the driest continent on the planet. We visit the peninsula, which is this piece you see sticking out on the left there, poking out into the ocean. And this is a really remarkable area because we take our ships down there and we work our way along the peninsula. You know, there's a 4-month period that you're down in Antarctica. You really need to work with your Wallace Pearson advisor because every month is a little bit different. Every month is spectacular and you can go any of those months and you will absolutely fall in love with Antarctica. But if there's something specific you want to see and experience, then make sure you speak with your advisor, get me on the phone so that we can get you there at the best time to experience that. When we just do the peninsula, you know, early season, lots of ice, the opportunity to get off and go cross-country skiing and snowshoeing through on those amazing sheet ice sections. You've also got great penguins, you've got whale, you've got seal life. You're not going to see baby penguins early in the season. You'll see mums and dads starting to nest, building their nests, but a lot of penguins need to lay on dirt and stone, and so they need the tops of the hills to melt away. And so it's not until we get into December that you're going to have the opportunity to see those babies on the nest late December, early January. And then as you head into the end of January, you're going to have the babies growing up quickly. And then February is when you're going to have the greatest opportunity to get along the peninsula further towards the Antarctic Circle. And also when the whales start to mass for their migration back. So greater whale numbers. So each month is a little different. So always talk to us. Let us get you there at the right time. Then if you want to do a bit of a longer trip instead of 14 days and do 21, you want to add in South Georgia and the Falklands. And this is the Serengeti of the Southern Ocean. This is 100,000 king penguins on one beach. Add to that elephant seals, albatross overhead, then going into the Falklands and learning about the rich history of the humans in the area there. But South Georgia is also special because this is where Shackleton is buried, and the opportunity to go and learn about these amazing explorers and how they approached these areas. Shackleton's body was actually on its way home when his wife said, no, this is the area he loved most, he should be buried here. So we get a chance to go have a glass of scotch and then go back to a much more comfortable boat than what he was sailing on or what he rode to get to South Georgia. But it is a remarkable place. And I will say to people who always ask me the question, oh, should I sail the Drake Passage? The Drake is known as the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake. We have the technology. We don't want to be in the Drake Shake either. We have the technology to see storms coming. We work around those. But I will tell you, the ships are built specifically for these regions. And you want to do the crossing, because one of the most remarkable parts of arriving into Antarctica is arriving into Antarctica. Okay, so this is when you're going to get the chance to see those mountains just appear out of the ocean in front of you. And that feeling of arrival is what makes it so very, very special. So that's my thought on how you should get to Antarctica. So let's just talk a little bit about the Galapagos Islands. And the Galapagos is really special. This is the second place we went to. So the Galapagos was in 1967. This is a selection of islands, each one very different, volcanic, some are ribbon lava, some are red sand, some are white sand. The ship moves during the night, and each day you are off the ship multiple times. And so this is the opportunity to truly explore and see all the different endemic species in the Galapagos. And some islands have species just particular to that area. This is actually Isabella Lindblad, so Sven's daughter. You can see they've got a very strong tie to the Galapagos Islands. Is that it? So one of the most important things is the opportunity to really understand and get out and see these remarkable giant tortoises in the Galapagos Islands. And what's really cool is just recently, I don't know if you know the story of Diego. Diego was taken from the islands about 50 years ago, taken to the San Diego Zoo. He was brought back to the Galapagos Islands for the breeding program. Diego was quite the man, quite the gentleman. Lots of baby tortoises. And just in this last month, Diego was released back into the wild. And so to know that we've been able to help this species come back from the brink of extinction is just really gratifying. And to know that Lindblad has been a part of that through our support of the Darwin Centre is pretty amazing. This is a place where you are going to get the chance to get very up close and personal with wildlife. And that's not because we're saying you should go up and get close to them, but because no matter where you go, they come check you out. So if you're in the surf, it's seals, you've got penguins. The waters in the Galapagos are always going to be chilly, deep, deep currents that feed the sides of the islands. That's why you've got that great marine biodiversity. And it's also why you've got penguins. So you can get in the water with penguins. We provide wetsuits, all the snorkel gear. And when you're in Galapagos, it really is about spending probably a good third of your time snorkeling or in the water or near the water. But some great hikes, great walks. Everywhere you go is so unique. You're flying down into Guayaquil or Quito and then out to the islands, and you spend that time exploring. And as I said, each island, very different, brilliant bird life, but also the opportunity to see all of those marine iguanas, land iguanas. The other place which I love is Alaska. And to be honest, when I started with Lindblad 8 years ago, Alaska was like, oh, I'll get to Alaska at some point. It wasn't top on my list. I actually went last year and realized that Alaska is not about the big animals. Alaska is about these tiny little things that you see that are just absolutely mind-blowing. But one of the first things you've got to understand is, I love this photo because people talk about their Alaska. If you look at this shot, you can see those two big ships down there. Do you see the tiny little ship in the middle? That's us. That's our Alaska. That's how we do Alaska. We arrive into Sitka or Juneau, and we get as far away from other people as we possibly can. And we get out and we go into these lovely little coves, and we go on hikes, and you get to see where bears scratch on the trees and leave their scent. You get the chance to see their footprints in the mud and get down as we do plaster of Paris, so we can figure out by the depth how heavy they are. The flora and the fauna, just the small flora in this area. I had the chance last year to travel with a woman who has a PhD in lichen and moss. I didn't know you could do a PhD in lichen and moss, but you can. And we spent half a day on our hands and knees looking at the most remarkable little orchids that were maybe an inch tall, and insect-eating plants, and just the most spectacular little fairy wonderland beneath our feet that if you weren't with an expedition leader, you wouldn't understand was there. And so although Alaska's about the otters and the whales, and we see those, and because of our relationships, we get up close and personal, it's also about the little things you would not know are there. And I think that's the beauty of traveling with people that are passionate and want you to see every aspect of the destinations that we go to. Killer whales in this area, I mean, they're remarkable. The chance to see them. We had a remarkable young juvenile male that just came along next to the ship for an hour with us in one of the fjords and played around, did a little jumping. He was quite remarkable, but just being away from other people. Alaska is not about shopping. You can do that anywhere. What you want to do is get out into these remarkable places where you've got the stellar sea lions, where you've got eagles, so many of them in the trees that they look like Christmas ornaments. There's so many white heads. Coming into a small bay one morning at 6 a.m. and we were up having coffee, and there were so many otters and their babies in the water around the ship. I mean, it was remarkable. And then there's bear on the shore digging for clam. I mean, it is a beautiful place. I think every person should get the chance to go to Alaska. Add into that the chance to go up and see the glaciers, just the color of the ice. It's just a remarkable, remarkable place. This year we added a new itinerary, which is the spirit bears down along the coast of British Columbia. These are a white grizzly bear. They are absolutely stunning, and they're revered by the Indigenous people of the region. Extremely hard to see. And that's the other thing I think is really important when you talk about expedition. We are taking you to these remarkable places with the chance to see. The fact that you're in these remarkable places is the trip. When you get to see something like a spirit bear, that's the icing on the cake. Or if you get to actually reach out and touch a grey whale in Magdalena Bay, that's the icing on the cake. But purely being there in their presence is what is just so very, very special. The Arctic, we've been in the Arctic for over 40 years. So Svalbard, the chance to go up and see the polar bears in the ice floe, and that new ship I told you about, the Endurance, allows us to go much further up into Franz Josef Land and up above Russia into the Russian Arctic, with greater opportunities to see these remarkable bears in their habitat. Iceland with circumnavigations, the coast of Norway, the Faroe Islands, coming all the way down the coast of Greenland, up into the west coast of Greenland, the Canadian high Arctic. There's just so many areas to explore. Add on to that Baja, California with the gray whales. If you love whales, Magdalena Bay in Baja must be on your list of places to visit. This is where gray whale mums come to give birth in these very sheltered bays. They give birth to their young, and then we will be down there in our boats, our Zodiacs. And if we're really lucky, the mothers will actually push their babies to the surface to interact with us. Gray whales are one of the whale species that actually they slough off their outer skin, and they love to grab a little scratch. They'll scratch on the bottom of the ocean, they'll scratch on the edge of the boat gently, and if you reach out and give them a bit of scratch, that they love it. So to be able to interact with gray whales, just know that when a whale blows, that is not water. It is snot. So it's not for the faint of heart, just saying. But one of the things we were down there working on this year was that now they actually don't have to take samples from whales to be able to figure out how healthy they are. They can drive drones with little petri dishes through the whale blow, and they can collect all the information they need from the DNA. Are they with calves? What are they eating? It's just remarkable, the scientific work that's being done from our ships. It's really cool. Add to that Costa Rica, Panama, we do Belize and Guatemala. We head off into the South Pacific, if you think of Easter Island, and coming out through Pitcairn Island, Mutiny on the Bounty, going into Tahiti, Marquesas Islands, remarkable places. And this is where those ethnomusicologists are really important, because music is at the heart and soul of the South Pacific. Egypt, the Mekong, so many places we visit all over the world. And I think this next little video will just give you a feel of what it's like to travel with Lindblad. It's just a little snapshot of the places we go and the things we do. And I'd love to take any questions if you have any.
Hi, it's Angie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Angie?
Good. I just would like to make a comment, maybe more than a question, but based on what we have experienced this year, I really encourage any and everybody that wants to get out there to make those plans now, because everybody's moving forward a year to 2 years. And if you wait too long, the inventory is just not going to be there. They're such small ships and they're going to be in such demand that you don't want to get caught late.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Angie. We've certainly seen a lot of folks from this year move to next year, along with, of course, all the folks that were intending to travel next year anyway. So, yeah, that's a very good point.
I think we're all in awe of the destinations. And
What is the status on sailings and trips going forward?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's a bit of a moving target at the moment, I think, for everybody, right? We think we've got our hands around it and then something else happens. Our plan is to be back out there as soon as it's safe and we can care for our guests and our crew. So hopefully before, September, but we just have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks, I think. Trust me, the last place any of us want to be is on dry land. We all want to be out on the ships. And if that were humanly possible right now, we'd be there. So the sooner we can make it happen with a safe environment, then we'll be out there.
I think is going to really launch expedition, especially Lindblad and the smaller ships, as they're available, is the fact that after a time like this of stress and being held so close to home and being unable to get out into the wild, this is just going to be so healing and so exciting, and just to have the freedom that it gives you is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's, what is it that Thoreau said, the tonic of wildness, right? We all feel better when we're outside, when we're close to nature. And being able to do that with folks who can really guide you and make you understand it makes it even more special. But yeah, I think, you know, actually Angie and I were on a call yesterday where we might have some fun things coming up in the future that might be closer to home, but we'll let you know about those later. We're just going to keep that a little secret for now. But yeah, look, we've been doing this for over 54 years now. It's something that we're passionate about. Sven just wrote an amazing article, and Angie, you might want to share this with everybody, about the effects of under-tourism and over-tourism. When companies like Lindblad aren't out there doing what we do, sometimes the places we go to are in greater danger. Because when we're there, when our guests are there, when we're putting money into these places, it's helping to protect the environment and the wildlife. And so when we can't be there, you know, it's very stressful for us, because we want to be back, we want to be caring for these places to ensure that the next generation gets the chance to see it. And, you know, we've done some amazing things, from just one really quick story, which I adore. You know, we do a lot wildlife-based, but we also do a lot culturally. If you've ever heard of the Queen Charlotte Islands, which is actually Haida Gwaii is the correct name for them. Several years ago, we realized that the Haida people had really lost a lot of their cultural identity during the last 100 or so years. And one of the things that Haida was famous for was spruce root weaving. So the weaving of spruce roots. And there's this one woman in particular who had this knowledge, and they were able to take a piece from one of the museums and deconstruct it and start teaching this remarkable weaving to the people of Haida, and bring back that passion and closeness to their cultural heritage. And I think those are the things that we should all be doing when we go into these places. You know, we should certainly be going because it helps to ensure their preservation by people knowing that they're in peril. But we should most importantly be helping them to create their own sustainable careers and livelihoods. And I think that that's one of the really beautiful things about traveling with Lindblad. Our guests are the catalyst to that. The people who travel with us are the people who help us fund all these remarkable activities around the world. And so you become a part of something so much bigger than yourself when you travel with someone like Lindblad. And I think that's just a really important part of who we are.